Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, where we bring you a weekly dose of powerlifting news, tips, and training advice with a touch of 80s rock ballads. This podcast is presented by Team Roar Powerlifting, your source of the most comprehensive coaching and meet day preparation. Here are your hosts, Josh Rohr and Lara Sturm.
Welcome to Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast. This is episode 43, and I am one of your hosts, Lara Sturm.
And I'm Josh Rohr. Welcome to the episode.
Woohoo! Reminder, we usually stream live, not so much today, while we record each episode. Join us every Monday at noon Eastern time on Instagram at PL Ballads Podcast. Join in on the conversation. And also check out Team Roar on Instagram for all of your powerlifting coaching needs.
Yeah, those of you that were anxiously awaiting the live stream on Monday, there were tornado warnings and storm outages and all that stuff. So I personally didn't have power until about 1:30. So we didn't stream it. So sorry about that.
It's a good excuse, though. I mean,
it's a great excuse.
Tornado.
Yeah.
There was tornadoes. There were flying monkeys.
There were tomatoes everywhere.
Tomatoes. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
So what do we've got in the powerlifting world?
We have a few meets coming up. So May 27th through 30th is the high school and teen nationals in Aurora, Colorado. June 12th is a meet that I'm excited about. Carolina Primetime. Basically, it's up in Greer, South Carolina, but they're running it. It was an invite only. It's a one platform meet, and they're going to live stream it. They're going to have some other neat things that are kind of really meant to spotlight the lifter that's lifting. And Team Roar is going to be a sponsor for it. So we're taking equipment up there, and we're actually going to be available to basically to handle lifters up there. So if anybody is lifting at the Carolina Primetime and needs a handler or a coach, some of our staff will be there to accommodate that. So hit us up on Instagram.
Sounds like a great meet.
Yeah, it'll be good. No, it will be good. They're doing a lot of cool things to spotlight the lifters and things like that. And, we'll be up there to support that meet. So they actually reached out. They reached out during through Instagram. Just, we ran the first prime time, and they thought it would be cool if we came up and kind of supported the meet. And they actually will likely be a guest on this podcast in the future before the meet. So probably in the next couple of weeks, we'll try to get them on there on the podcast, the meet directors, and talk about the meet.
Yeah, that sounds exciting.
Yep. Then June 14th and through 19th is Nationals in Daytona Beach. We're taking a whole crew of people down there. And then another local meet that's going to be really cool is the Atlanta Open in Mableton. It just got moved. So here's the shit of it all. This meet was supposed to be part of the World Sports Expo, and the director of the World Sports Expo apparently, I don't know what the full story is, but forgot to reserve the actual venue. So basically he contacted all of the events that are part of it and said, hey, so we're going to do it in the fall, not in the summer, because the venue wasn't available. But the real story is, I think he forgot to reserve it or something. I'm not sure. Either way. So this meet is going to be run on its own, not part of the expo after all. But Liz and Jaslyn are doing a really good job making it have a very high level feel to it. So right now they got 103 lifters already signed up, and the late fee starts on May 14th. So if you're looking for a meet in the local Atlanta area, and you want to have a really high production value meet, I would say the Atlanta Open is the one. So get signed up before it's too late.
Do it now.
You're on notice.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. So there's some cool meets coming up. The two Carolina Primetime and Atlanta Open are two kind of in the local area. And then, the two national meets coming up. So that'd be cool.
Yeah. So exciting stuff in the world of powerlifting. Things kind of coming back to life.
Yeah, for sure.
And hopefully they stay that way.
Yep.
That sounds amazing. All right. Well, let's talk about best 80s albums. We're on Josh's number 2.
Yep. Both of our number 2s. We're going to talk about both.
Oh, we're doing mine? Okay. All right.
So if you need to pull up your cheat sheet.
I got to remember what my number 2 was.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about the correct
Keep
number
going.
2 while you're thinking.
Oh, the correct number 2.
So my number 2 80s album is Slippery When Wet from Bon Jovi. This thing has everything on it. So I'm going to run down the list of like the hit songs that people probably know, and then we'll get into more detail. So Let It Rock, You Give Love a Bad Name, Living on a Prayer. Everybody knows that one for sure. Wanted Dead or Alive, Never Say Goodbye, Raise Your Hands, and I'd Die for You. All of those are hit songs, and that is 7 out of the 10 songs on the album. So 70% of those songs were hit songs. I just think it's hard to argue that that doesn't deserve to be top 2. Maybe I'll say top 3. I would say anybody, I'm just going to make this statement. Anybody that has a top 30 80s album list, I'm going to say Slippery When Wet should be number 3 or better on every single person's list.
On every single person's
Yep,
list.
regardless of what kind of music you like.
Obviously,
that's based on okay.
That it's an anthem,
It is.
and it was definitely. I mean, I had it on cassette tape, and it was in my car. The problem that I have with this album is that it got way, way overplayed. And I went from this being one of my favorite albums to one of those albums now when I hear a song, I usually change the channel because it got so overplayed back in the 80s. It kind of, you ever get that? Like when something gets so overplayed that you just can't stomach it anymore?
Yep. And I think that is a result of poor management of playing the songs and no actual reflection on the quality of the songs or album itself. So in a lot of ways, that kind of tarnishes so for you, so these songs like give you a change the channel vibe.
Yeah.
Sadly. Yeah, that's unfortunate because here's the thing. If these songs would have been spread out over like 3 albums, they each would have been played less overall, I think.
Right.
And I think they would actually stand out as more favorably remembered songs that way versus them all being on the same album. But I will also say that they would not be overplayed if they were not good. So the fact that all of these songs were overplayed kind of also, to me, says, hey, these are great songs. So
yeah, it was a great album.
Yeah,
just great album. There's just no doubt.
Yep.
It's like one of those albums too. Like I remember where I was and what I was doing and exactly how old I was. It was just like this snapshot in time.
Yeah.
So it is not a whole. I mean, there's a lot of music that does that for me, but that particular album really brings it home.
Yeah, and obviously, I don't remember when the album was released. I was 3. However, sorry.
But if you were older,
but if I was older, I would have remembered. But I will say, like, I do have memories associated with almost every one of these songs. I just found out about it later.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. So you ready for my number 2?
I'm ready. What do you got?
You might heartily disagree.
Heartily disagree? Like wholeheartedly?
Whatever.
Or heavily. I don't know. We're kind of making
something
up
like
words.
that. You might really disagree. I don't really know. So I do have a heavier slant when it comes to my music list, except for maybe the Vision Quest soundtrack. Iron Maiden, baby. The album being Peace of Mind. Great album. My favorite Iron Maiden album. And one of my favorite songs to squat to, Die With Your Boots On. Because, man, when you put on some knee wraps, I don't know, it's like die with your wraps on. And that's what it feels like sometimes. Be like, oh, all right, we're walking this out. Fuck it, let's go. That was my squat song, Nice. And I just love this album. Other great songs in this album, Where Eagles Dare, Flight of Icarus, The Trooper, and one of my favorite songs, Still Life. which is kind of like a story as he's singing. It's very almost theatrical. I love Iron Maiden. When I was back in the 80s, one of the things that I did a lot of like album covers, like drawing out the album covers. And Eddie, that's you can't think of album covers and not think about Iron Maiden's Eddie being on every album cover of theirs. And just classic 80s, great stuff. Although I got to say, I recently, well, not so recently, we saw Iron Maiden. I think it was the last concert I saw live before the pandemic. And I was a little, I kind of wish they did more off this album. And not so many of the deep cuts. I hate to say that I wanted to hear more of their more popular songs, because when you're a true fan, you should, be happy with whatever they get. But there was a lot from this album. I was like, man, why didn't they play that song? Why didn't they play that song? Why didn't they play this? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I can argue both sides of that. I think, so let's just assume you're like somebody that sees them multiple times, like in a year, because there's a lot of those fans that follow them around and we'll see them in different cities and stuff like that. You can't play all the hits every time, or you're gonna do a disservice to those fans.
right.
So
But Iron Maiden hadn't been around in concert for a while, so when they came back,
it's true.
yeah, there was that. But cool story about what's his name, Bruce Dickerson. Is that his last name? I'm not good with ever remembering people's names. It's like I know the band. He's a pilot, like a full-fledged commercial pilot.
Commercial pilot. Wow.
Like commercial pilot. Like he flew for, I think it was British Airlines for a while. Like that was his like other job. Yeah, I'm just gonna, be a pilot and fly.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
And so when they go on tour, they actually have an airplane that they've made over, and it says like flight 666 on the side.
That's awesome.
And he flies. He's the guy. He's like this true Renaissance man.
That's super
So,
cool.
Yeah,
That
super interesting.
did not know that. That's very good trivia.
Yeah. So they fly himself around. Can you imagine being on an airplane and then,
This is your captain
looking and go,
speaking.
right? They start playing, Number of the Beast or something. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So there is actual plane.
Wow.
So, yeah, pretty cool.
Man, that would be really like, I wonder how many people actually know that. So I'm sure like really hard, like I didn't know that, but you just told me. But I wonder how many people that are like, Iron Maiden fans, but not like diehard fans that don't know that. Especially, you said it was British Airways.
I think it was British Airways.
So
I could be wrong.
what if
I had a pilot friend tell me about this.
that's crazy.
So
So I wonder if that's like something that they don't really talk about.
I think I looked it up at one point on like Wikipedia, because I was just like, really, that's so interesting. That full-fledged, like he can fly his not just his little pilot's license, but like
Yeah, like
jets,
big
like
old-
commercial.
big old jet airliners.
Yeah, exactly. Great song too. Not 80s, but
Yeah. Man, like I just wonder, like the way my mind works, I'm thinking like, man, I wonder how many people are like Iron Maiden fans and flew British Airlines like at some point. And if we were to tell them, hey,
right.
there's a possibility your pilot could have been a member of Iron Maiden. Like, I wonder how many people would be like start
Right.
trying to figure it out. Like, okay, I flew on this day in 1987. I don't know. I'm just making it up.
Right. Well, and it also makes you think too, like you think of a lot of people that are probably musicians, like heavy metal musicians with the long hair and tattoos and all that shit. And you might think that, you could just totally look at them and just go, oh, they're just, kind of discount them.
Yeah.
And, obviously you shouldn't.
Hey, have you seen, there's a movie on, I think it's on Prime Video right now called Sound of Metal. Have you heard anything about it? I haven't watched it yet.
No.
It sounds, this is going off the rails here, but basically it's a movie about a guy that's in a metal band that starts losing his hearing. And I've only watched the preview, so I could be telling it completely wrong, but basically he's trying to figure out like how to move on in life without metal, because that's all he's known. But the doctors told him like if he keeps playing, like he's gonna, have permanent damage and stuff like that. So
Right.
Maybe I'll watch it and then we'll talk about it, which makes more sense than me trying to talk about it before either one of us have seen it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I know that there have been artists that, have lost their ability to draw and like have overcome that. I mean, and
Yeah.
another good example of accommodating around things is the Def Leppard drummer.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you're a drummer and you lose your arm in an accident, I mean, boy, he must have been like,
Yeah.
looking, screaming at the heavens, going, why, out of everything, take my leg, or whatever.
Yeah.
For a drummer to lose an arm, and
Yeah.
then
And then whoever, well, the other thing is like, who then has the presence of mind to think, okay, how am I going to figure out how to drum without an arm?
Mhm.
Most people are just like, well, that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
But he went through recovery, wanted to get back into it, and got a whole set designed around him. And having seen them in concert a couple times now, and I think we've talked about this, how their sets are exactly the same every time.
Yeah.
And he's an amazing drummer.
Yeah.
And I started to teach myself how to drum a little bit for a while,
Yeah.
and it's just hard. So I
Yeah.
can't imagine one arm.
I've never been musically inclined at all. I used to want to play guitar, but I couldn't figure. I mean, I never took lessons, I guess I'll say. But like even just like, what did he call it? Just, is it strumming? Is that what they call it? Even just like hitting a few of the things, like I couldn't even make just one string sound like it's supposed to sound.
Yeah. Well, nowadays with apps and some interesting stuff that you can like watch on, you can get an app to tell you exactly what to do when, and play it with music. So that's how I was learning stuff.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah, it's kind of fun though. But I can now go, wow, I tried that and I did it for a while, and I kind of got it out of my system.
Yeah.
And then once in a while I hear a song that I have played around with and been like, wow, you can appreciate it at a whole different level. So,
yeah, for sure.
there you go.
Crazy.
All right, so let's move on to the powerlifting situation. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So Josh, you've got a friend came to handle you and coach you at your meet, and you start warming up and your friend starts getting visibly anxious and intense, and it's starting to make you anxious now. So you decide that you'd probably be better able to focus on what you're doing without them around, but also you don't want to hurt their feelings. What do you do?
Get the fuck out of here. That's what I would say.
Wow. That's
no, I know. I say that because it's mostly sarcasm, because I wouldn't say it that way. Because I care about hurting people's feelings. But in this situation, like, you're the lifter, you need what's best for you. And though I appreciate them being there to help, not everybody is cut out to be in the warm-up room and in the back with you. I've seen it. I've had people handle me before that, at the end of the day, I think I probably would have been better off if they weren't there. Just, for whatever reason, making me nervous and at this point, I guess I do better at managing my anxiety levels when I'm lifting. So this might not be as big of a deal now as it would have been, earlier in my lifting career. So, it's something that I try to, I guess now as a coach, I try to be very aware of, not to be that guy, and try to keep like an even keel the whole time. That way, people don't get thrown. I mean, the last thing you want is to be thrown off by the person helping you out. They're supposed to be helping you out, not freaking you out. So, I don't know. I would probably ask the person to, just bring it down a couple notches and just let them know like, hey, you're really making me anxious. Like it's not that big of a deal. But then again, you start almost coaching them, and then so I don't know. If it was a quick fix, like, hey, just bring it down a couple notches, you're making me nervous. And if that took care of it, great. If not, I'd be like, look, can you just go sit in the audience and I'll roll myself. I'll get it myself.
Yeah, it would be tough if you're an equip lifter and you've got someone who's watching the timing and wrapping your knees and that type of thing.
So if it was equipped, I'd probably just say, hey, like, just stand here until I tell you to do something. Then I'm going to be paying attention to the timing and everything anyway, if I'm by myself. So worst case scenario, I'm still doing that, but then I just say, hey, start wrapping this knee, etc. So,
right.
I just think that's something that a lot of people don't anticipate or aren't familiar with the amount of stress there is handling lifters. So they think, oh, I'll just show up and help you out. Well, when everything gets thrown on your shoulders, that's a lot. So, if you're not used to that or not expecting it, it can definitely start playing into the emotions of the lifter and affecting them negatively.
Right. And it might be that if you said to the person, look, you're freaking me out more than you're helping me right now.
Yeah.
I can do this myself. Kind of letting them off the hook might help them go, oh, wait, my anxiety is being just a little too crazy. So they may be able to bring it down.
Yeah. And I get it. I mean, I totally get it. I mean, I just because, well, I won't even say that I don't make people nervous. I guess sometimes I'm sure I do, but I'm very much aware of the stress and anxiety going on inside of me, I guess, as I'm coaching too. But I really try to make that, not apparent to the people I'm helping, because, that does them no good.
Well, and I have to say, as a handler, you're pretty chill. Although there's been times where I swear I've been like, I'm kind of sitting down and I'm kind of half watching the board, kind of know where I am a little bit, but I'm like, I'm not going to watch. And then I'm like, okay, I'm two out. Where's Josh? And then boom, you'll like appear. Like I'd be looking around and be like, oh my God, he's gone. I don't know what's going on. And then like you just appear like magic, right when you need to be.
Yeah. And that's something I guess that I probably need to have more conversations with people about, because especially like during deadlift, there's a lot of times like I'm doing math and running numbers and potentially making a change. So I'm not with you. I'm at the scoring table, which is essential in terms of the jockeying for position. But, if people don't know you're doing that, they just think I bailed on them and they start freaking out. So yeah, I always have my phone or something where I know exactly what the lifting order is and where people are. So I can make sure I'm back in time. But yeah, I've freaked a few people out by not letting them know. There's that balancing act, because if you say, hey, I'm going to be at the scoring table, making changes or whatever, they're like, well, why are you making changes?
Right.
What's wrong? Well, nothing's wrong. We're jockeying for position. And some people don't even know I'm gone. So then if I tell them, hey, I'm going to be gone, they're like, wait, why are you going away?
Right.
So
yeah. So, it's just good to tell them, hey, even if you don't see me, I'm still here.
Hey, just close your eyes until I come back.
In stealth mode. Right. I think you'd always be like, here's your headphones. Don't listen. Just sit there and quit freaking out.
Put this paper bag over your head.
Kind of. Yeah. I think you asked me to get noise canceling headphones at one point because I was getting a little too. Yeah.
Well, that's anyway. The thing, like the noise and there's so much anxiety around you from other people at a meet because they don't know the timing. They're used to warming up at the gym by themselves, so they're not used to waiting on other people, things like that. They don't realize, people warm up on their own time normally. And well, now you got to warm up based on how the meet's flowing. And a lot of people just aren't aware of that and don't do a very good job of it. So they're freaking out around you. You might've done everything perfect, but everybody else around you is freaking out. So you're like, wait a minute, what's wrong? What's going on?
Right.
So
right. If they're freaking out, why shouldn't I be?
Right. So being able to tune some of that stuff out, like, hence the noise canceling headphones where you can just like kind of block some of that crap out, some of the noise out.
Yeah. Right. And I think at some level you can kind of pick up the vibe. even just
Yep.
the
Yeah, for
energies
sure.
in the room. You're like, everyone else is freaking out. Should I be freaking out too? Yeah. No.
And I'd say that's what, that's what the really good lifters are able to do. They're able to kind of stay within themselves and, just control what they need to control because, Joe Schmo next to me freaking out because they got 3 warm-ups left and they only have 2 minutes to do it. Well, that doesn't affect me. That's, tough
Right.
luck on them,
Right.
So,
Boy, kind
yeah.
of.
So yeah, I guess so. My final answer on this, I would, I would say something as nicely as I could. I was joking about saying get the fuck out of here. But that might be my feeling towards it if they're really messing with me. But I would try to, say something to calm them down, let them know like, hey, it's not all on your shoulders because if you leave, it's all on my shoulders. So let's just split the difference, and I'll tell you, when I need you, what I need you for, etc.
Right. Take the pressure off.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's move on to the new lifter tip. So here's the tip of the week. When the referees say squat or start, that basically means you can begin when you're ready. You don't have to begin immediately. So take your time and go when you're ready.
Yep.
Yes. Enough said. Yeah, I think a lot of people take it as like a kind of like a go command, like they're at the starting line and this is the pistol going off. Don't treat it that way. It just means go whenever. Proceed at your leisure.
Yep. Yeah, and that's one thing we've been really working on with our lifters recently is just trying to get, because here's the thing, like the spotters and loaders, the referees, all the people working the platform, their goal is to keep it moving, right? Make sure all the loads are correct. Make sure, as soon as the lifter's done, next load up, let's keep it moving because they don't want lifters to have to wait or have a really long day. And that's all for the benefit of the lifters. But the downside of that is people don't realize people, when they go up to lift, they assume that all of that urgency, again, it's almost like that feeling, the anxiety around you. They feel like that urgency is aimed directly at them as the lifter, and it's not. It's aimed at everybody working the platform to do their part to get everything ready and, bars loaded. And, when people are even yelling, like the announcer, 30 seconds, 20 seconds announcing the time left, that's not meant to be rushing you. That's just educating you, letting you know exactly how much time you have. So, I just think that's something I see a lot of new lifters struggle with is as soon as they say squat, the lifter goes and they're not ready. Or they yell bars loaded and, they might be finishing up their wrist wrap. Well, instead of finishing tightening their wrist wrap, they just throw it off and run out to the platform with 60 seconds, missing a wrist wrap, not realizing they could go ahead. There's time. They could go ahead and finish rolling their wrap up and then go out, so, that's the tip. Just, slow things down a little bit. That 60 seconds is a long time. Use the whole time, like, be ready when they call bars loaded, but know that you have time to do things at your own leisure. When they give you the squat command, you have as long as you want at that point. So take your breath, get braced and everything. And yeah, just don't get too anxious and too rushed that you make mistakes.
Yes. And I'd say even like in training, practice trying to slow all that down, because in a meet, it just, you just feel the emotions around you. There's a lot going on and it's so easy to lose your mind.
Yep. And she might be pissed at this, but one of the lifters that we've really been working on with this is Stacy Metcalf. She used to just get really, I guess, out of her element at meets because of everything else going on. And she would just get rushed and just make, just get in her head so much that she couldn't function like she normally can. So, this time around in training, and she went 9 for 9 at the state meet this past weekend. But, some of the things we would do is like, I would say, she would just be sitting waiting to do her next set. And I would just randomly say bars loaded, 60 seconds. And she wasn't ready or anything. And she would start like scrambling and getting ready and have a bad set. And then the next set, I'd be like, bars loaded. Okay, now take your time. You still have 60 seconds. And then she would just like start realizing how long that 60 seconds actually is. and then, she, giving her random like countdowns, like as she's sitting down on the bench, 15 seconds. And I'd say it real urgently just to make her like start to have that reaction, but then realize, wait a minute, there's still 15 seconds. That's plenty of time. And I think that helped her specifically a lot, just being able to, understand that all of those things don't really matter to her. Like they don't really affect what she does and how she
Right.
reacts. So
I think that's awesome. A little stimulus practice. And and I think kind of getting out of your comfort zone sometimes, even just training somewhere different.
Yep.
That was something that I played with, just
Yep.
because I'd get kind of like, I'd always be training in the same place with the same people at the same time. And a meet's not that way. And so you get out of that element, just training in a different place is just like, things are
Yep.
different. People are going to wrap your knees slightly different.
yeah. And
Different stimulus is helpful.
yep. Yeah, I agree. And, at the end of the day, like those different stimulus things going on, actually, I mean, if you start thinking about it logically, like the people sitting in the crowd actually don't affect you if you don't let them affect you. The music that's playing, like the music's not what's lifting it the way you are. So like if you can control your emotions and your adrenaline level and things independently of those other things, then you're set.
Mhm.
So
Good point. I like that.
Yep.
Very nice. Well, I think that's a wrap. And you should follow us on Facebook and DM us. Wow.
direct message, DM. It's what the kids are saying now, apparently.
Wow. Yeah,
DM.
really. DM us. Just sounded kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right. So definitely send us messages and stuff at PL Ballads Podcast. And you can email us at plballadspodcast@gmail.com.
Do that.
Yes. Send us questions, send us ideas, send us your music lists.
Absolutely.
Do
All right,
it.
guys. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you later.
Bye now.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends.